Hello everyone, we are from Group 1 and today we want to present our materials. The theme will be the Native American versus European settler in colonial time. And before we begin, I would like to introduce you to our member. First there will be me, second Inga, and third Billy. Let's move to the next slide in here. Did you know the name of Indian tribes derives from the Columbus journal that mentioned Los Indios to describe the new continent that he found? Because he thought that he had found the western route to India, while the name of America derives from Amerigo Vespucci, based on an Italian explorer, which later a map had been made by Martin Walsmuller in 1507, namely America, the Latinized version of Amerigo. Let's move to the next slide in here. Native Americans' image and stereotypes. According to the source, Indian tribes known as barbaric or savage tribes since European settler in 1591, namely Theodore de Bry, tried to engrave about Indian scalping knife and tomahawk. It is also published by an artist, namely Jacques Lemons in 1564 and 1565. It is continually spread during the 17th century until the 19th century by some observers from non-Indian that portrayed Indian tribes like to be violent, and they mention it as savage rather than civilized combat of European and American government. What the show was performed by William Buffalo Bill Cody with the other showmen in North America and Europe from late 1800 until the 20th century. They performed and dramatized using Indian stereotypes as the savage war that was attacked stagecoaches and cabins. It became a template for most filmmakers Westerners depicting hordes of Indians attacking European Americans. If we see at the Yellow Tomahawk movie in May 1954, directed by Leslie Salander, it is about Indian subtribes, Cheyenne warriors, namely fire knife that wants to do an act of vengeance and intend to kill Major Ives. All of the stereotypes make non-Native Americans upset, so they decide to torture, incarcerated, murdered, and even sell Indian tribes into slavery. Now let's move to the next slide in here. It will be the Native American wider image. Now let us look into the reality. The reality is Indian tribes doesn't full of savage. They have no choice to do so because many European Americans, or we call the white people, intend to steal the resource from Indian territory. If only no intention to damage their homeland, then they will act civilized just as the other human being. We could see that from some of the history movies about World War II. One of the movies, namely The Windtalkers, directed by John Woo, and the primary actor is Nicolas Cage, and Adam Beach as Navajo Code Talkers. It proved that they also love the United States and want to defend it, although all of the European and Americans want to get rid of them in the past. And now let's move to the next slide here. Bill will explain further.
Thank you, Christopher. Now we will talk about values of Native American. There are three values. First, love people, especially their tribes, and they love to conserve animal. So even though they hunt animal, they will not exploit it like human today is like to exploit everything, but Indian tribe is not. So the second value is love the environment. Indian peoples believe that every environment have a spirit, so they have to keep it sacred and stable. And also they like to share without a high sense of ownership. This means that what their property belongs to the people of the tribes, not just for the one people only. Now we will talk about the third value, highly oriented to conserve their traditional life and language. They are very like to share their experience, their knowledge to the every generations. That is why they keep conserving their traditional language until maybe today. Next. Now, this is an example of Native American applicable values. Like I said before, that they love to people, they even though it is not from their other tribes, even though it is just other peoples that they don't know, and they are in the middle of the war. For example, they are in the middle of the war in the English expedition to Ohio Indian tribes in 1766. Now, they try to bring the English captive back to the English, even though they are in the middle of the war. Next slide, please. This is the value of European settler. First, individual. Uh, they doesn't like to care much to other people. They want to care to themselves. And also, in this individual terms, it means that they want to do it their own way. It is connected with independence, freedom, and liberalism. It means that they don't like to be restricted. They don't like to be limited. They want to explore the world. That's why there are so many islands in the earth has been found by the European sailor in the old times. Now we move to the egalitarian. They only respect to their own society. This is connected with what happened to the Indian tribes and also on the values of the fourth, believing God in the Christianity only, because if we can see that most of the people that believe in the God in that time it become a Puritans. This means that they really highly value the value of Christianity. Therefore, they will not act friendly with people with other beliefs, such as Indian tribes in the time that believe in the spirit of the environment and not Christianity. Move to the next slide. Now, this is the impact of the European settler to the Native Americans. There are some of the negative impacts due to European arrival, but there is one is big. They start to erase the presence of Native American either with a law or by bloodshed in 16th century until 18th century. And this is the illustration of 1960, 1622 Indian massacre. According to the link, it is a massacre done by the Indian subgroup Powhatan because their land has been taken to become tobacco field and most of the Indian tribes has been kidnapped and being sold as slavery. Most of the Now, this is the other illustration of painting by adoption of Daniel Boone's daughter by Indian tribes during American Revolutionary War. It became literary fictionalized work in the novel The Last of the Mohican by James Fenimore Cooper in 1826. Now, this is the government of America treatment to the Indian tribes. There were numerous treaties between Indians and the government at the time. However, the white people had broken all the treaties. As a result, Indian must live the way white people live. One of the examples is speaking English as a primary language. Move. Now, this is the government of American Indian tribes treatment that we see there is of the treaties is so much, and the last treaty is Fort Laramie Treaty in 1868. Again, in this final treaty, the government of America broke it by allowing the white people to do the mining gold on the Black Hill with fully exploitation, which is the reservation place for Sioux and Arapaho tribes, and which is not supposed to be like that. They cannot enter because that is the reservation area. I think that's all of our presentation. We love to hear your question or feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.